Boosh.
Okay. So I've got your, so we're going to do the pecs tonight. Pectorals, there are two pec muscles that we need to look at. You've got your pec major, which is this one here, and you have a clavicular head one. So clavicular head one coming from superior to inferior. And then you have your sternal head, which comes either superior, transversely, or from inferior to superior. They all attach on the arm, round about here, okay? And if they get tight, they will pull the shoulders forward. So you get this internal rotation going on in and around the arm from these ones here. Pectoral minor is this one, which attaches to your third, fourth, and fifth rib and goes up into the coracoid process in your scapula. And around here. Okay, these will get tight and they will pull your shoulder down. So you've got a forwards from pec major and you've got a downwards from pec minor coming in. So if anyone has those protracted shoulders, it's likely that it's coming from here. Now, I'm going to research this a little bit more, but the pectoral muscles are meant as a posture muscle. They're meant to be there to kind of stabilize and support and keep you in good posture. But we use them for so many activities. Because they are flexors, they're the mirror muscles. They say in the gym, people will spend more time doing the muscles at the front than they will do at the back. And Friday night is pecs and biceps night, usually in the STV gym. So it's a sort of favourite for aesthetics, but it also, because of it pulling everything forwards, it means that the muscles around the back, the latissimus muscles around the back, should be used for driving. So you should have your elbows tucked in, shoulders down and back, and you should be able to use your latissimus to do the movements of driving. It should be latissimus that does, say, the action of chopping and cooking and things like that. It should be coming from this type of movement, which is the muscles around the back, but very quickly driving becomes here and this type of movement, which is your pectorals. So a lot of people that drive for long periods of time, they have one arm up, other arms down on the rest thing, okay, this way for me, and they do all of the movement through their pecs. And their pecs get tight, and then they get issues in and around their shoulders. So many chefs, I mean, we had a chef on the weekend, not so long ago, and his posture is like this all the time. And he chops with their elbows out, which again is like a pectoral movement. Plumbers, electricians, it's all pectoral. So pectoral movements would be horizontal flexion, going from pectorals. It helps with flexion as well, and there is some extension because you've got the pec minor in there as well. So you've got all sorts of different movements going on. But I think the important thing to remember is the pecs should just be there for stability and posture, but become a prime mover for so many daily tasks. They're not designed for that. Postural muscles don't have as many mitochondria within them, which provide the energy, and so they're not resilient to fatigue, so they will get tight. In, I guess both really, it doesn't really matter whether it's male or female, but the head that gets the tightest tends to be from the manubrium, which is this sort of hexagonal bone here, and the clavicle head. So from the manubrium and the clavicle head all the way around here, you'll find lots and lots of trigger points. But the major trigger point for the pecs is where the superior head, the superior pec head, and then the pec minor meet at this point here. So right in the shoulder, right as we move into where the humerus is, all of those muscles converge, and you will have the major trigger point for pec, just in there. Major trigger points, if you can find a major trigger point, they release all of the little satellite trigger points around them. So you get this big area of tension, this big area of adhesion, and if you get to it, it'll send referral pain, so it's sort of sending like sensations all the way down to my elbow at the moment. If you get to it, it will release everything in and around it. So most of my work for pecs is working across the first and second rib, working out towards the shoulder. That's all we need to do. The movements that you have in the arm, at 90 degrees, you are bringing pecs, the pec major, into position, and you're stretching pec major. When you get to 120, or above, you start to really stretch out because the shoulder's being pulled back, pec minor as well. So I always start my massage of the pecs in neutral, and I'll go through more of the pec massage, the warm-up stuff, the effleurage, and then I'll show you how we graduate into treatment for the pecs. Get into this one. Most of the time people don't want it done. They come in for a back massage because the back is sore. So it's not something you won't get people coming in very often and saying, I'd like a pec massage. But it's one of the most important parts of a treatment, and you should try and encourage them, not insist, but encourage people to have their pecs massaged, because then the understanding of the tightness becomes clear. They won't feel tightness in their pecs because the joint just moves to release the tightness. If there was something a little bit more stable in the joint, holding it in position, then they would feel tightness and they'd feel a lack of range of movement. But because the shoulder can just roll forwards, they don't feel the tightness in their pecs. So no one really asks for a pec massage because it doesn't feel tight. But when you get them into a slightly stretched position, then it does feel tight. Okay. So, you've already volunteered?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Let the fun begin.
Here we go. So I've just moved to this, sorry Steph, I've just moved to this one just because the camera position is good. Go. Okay, so if you lie face down, up. Face up. Yeah. Just nice. I've had them out for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've had them
I used
out.
one the other day in clinic actually. I kind of just made it up like that. I quite liked it. Because it just meant I could get under and do a nice trap roll.
It was part of the demonstration to say that.
Something out of the Sistine Chapel.
What does? Those things.
I was going to say, he looks like he's got a headband on. Who is it? There's a video. No, there's a fashion model that's in a bath and she's got like a halo on.
So I would towel, obviously, as well, so make sure you towel. And you need to make sure there is a bolster underneath the back of the knees. This one. Alright, good. Now I need to do my shoelaces up. Checking hazards.
Sounds weird, but it's so quiet. Not hearing as many people. I know that's stupid, but it's so quiet.
The shoulder is tightest. The right shoulder is tightest, yeah?
Which
But I'll do the left because otherwise I'll block the camera. Okay. So this is a bit of a revision of level 3. We did this before. So I would start my pec massage with the mini money maker. Round the shoulders, into the upper trapezius muscles, give them a nice trap roll. Lighten up as you go across the AC joint and into the deltoids, down into the triceps. Getting the oils on, because it's all over the chest, so I need to just spread that out, otherwise I'll slip all over the place. And it's that clavicle line that I'm working my way through. The direction of pressure. Try not to spill. So that's all.
Spill.
The right pressure.
Nice spill.
It's always about trying to decompress the shoulder joints. So we're looking to pull the shoulder blades down and back as we go. Down and back. So that's quite a nice way to start. And that's working pec major. It's a little bit of pec minor right at the very end. Into your deltoids and the traps. Now if the pec minor is tight, which goes to the coracoid process, we're slightly missing that one. And you could check with the coracoid process, well, it could be biceps and pec minor that are tight. But if you bent your arm and then just rest it across your chest, a lot of people rest in this type of position because it just takes the pressure off the shoulder joint. And then if you straighten the shoulder joint, straighten your arm, sorry, it pops up a little bit more. And that did pop up a little bit more. So there'll be tightness in pec minor and there'll be tightness in your bicep and then pulling the shoulders forwards. So this will come back when we start talking about the arm in relation to the pecs as well. So if you've got a tight, if you've got tennis elbow It could be that the pecs have been tight, bicep is tight, therefore the range of movement is lessened, and then the elbows start to take over some of the movement and they get super tight as well. So this is just purely bicep, coming across coracoid brachialis and pec minor, and then coming down the shoulder and the delta and the tricep. So this position, bicep, shoulder, up. I've got my right hand, so I cross over. Right hand is just stabilizing the arm. If it wasn't there, every time I pushed, it would just fall and flop around the place and get in the way. So just back into that position and then through, and then we're ready to start our work in and around the pec. So that's like a nice effleurage massage. My right hand, I bring underneath the shoulder. So the right hand sometimes I stabilize, but also I push the shoulder and just pull my fingers up into his rotator cuff so that you get a little bit of work at the rotator cuff and both sides of the shoulder as I'm working. You're searching for those little tender spots in and around the rotator cuff as you work your way through. That's quite a nice way of, it's like doing the maximum amount of massage that you can in the time that you've got. So if you don't have time to do the rotator cuff, so my hands are like that, my fingers are like that, they're sliding up into the infraspinatus, searching for those tender spots, and then just working the two together. Be careful with that one because it will work your flexors, so don't do it too often. It's quite a nice way of warming things up. The hand position is coming to the outside of the neck, so it's never going in that direction. Your towel sets the appropriate area to work. You would never go underneath the towel. And I always work with my fingers going up towards the neckline. And then you've got these carpals in your palm, close to your wrist, and there are bony eminences, prominences in your carpals. And you can use here and you can use here as a tool for massage. And so what I'm doing is softening my hand, which makes these more pronounced. If I was to straighten it out, all the fascia and all the muscle starts to stretch that out. It doesn't feel as much. But if you just soften it, the knees become super firm, and we can get a really nice deep pressure by using the palm of your hands rather than using thumbs. Is that okay so far?
Yeah.
Are we getting
Yeah,
to
we're 5 already.
really 5, and we've not even moved the arm yet. So this is like warm-up stuff, and we're getting into 5s. So this is going to get tasty.
More than a 7.
No more than a 7.
I love a good 7.
All right, so that's all I need to do. So that's your warm-up stroke. So we're just doing a little bit of this, and then you can turn that off.
Have my head down for a minute, right up.
Now we need to take the arm. You need to take the arm. You need to take it with control and authority. No limpness with this. You've got to take it, and you've got to put it in the position that you want it, and then this is now where you have license to flow and to find the tension and find the tightness. And the protocols become, no, they're staying, they're static, they're fine. I think because you're moving now, the muscle is already elongated, and you could arguably working into soft tissue release in a transverse position or in a longitudinal position. So the lower pectorals in this movement are going longitudinal. The sort of this part of the sternal muscle, you're probably strumming across those transversely. Pec minor, you're probably going longitudinal in there. So everything, there's a big mesh of muscle going on in and around here. And to be honest, I glide my way through because I'm going from one muscle to the other. I would apply some pressure with my carpal, and then I would move into abduction. And then here, probably pec minor is becoming more and more tight underneath the palm this time. Yeah. So I've worked from the pec major, and I'm working my way to pec minor, just doing a little bit of abduction. What you could do at the moment, the arm is bent. If we just added in some external rotation at 90 degrees, that stretches out the pecs as well. So we're going into abduction and external rotation. We could go into, so change it around again, go into extension of the forearm and some rotation, and that will probably stretch it out. So lots of different ways of doing it. We're looking essentially for that tight area. Now we've got a little bit of horizontal flexion with some external rotation and some horizontal extension, and I'm just staying static on that pec, working my way down. And I'm just shy of the, my pressure is there, but the real money stuff is there. You can see the tightness in there. And I'm working my way into it. So we're going down. Now if we go a little bit further across into there, now I have to be a little bit careful because that's going to be really, really tight. So you can see I'm fine tuning the movements, just little movements. And I'm gradually just doing one, moving across, 2, 3, and then with the shake out, because that's tough. It's intense. You try not to show it, but
It's intense.
it's really intense. So we've got some horizontal flexions, some rotations, we've got all of this. Just shake it out, get ready again, and then go again. If you go in too deep too soon, so I start here, and then I'm working to here. If you started directly on that, it would be, you'd probably get intense straight away. They're starting to prepare, and they won't want the other side done. So you've really got to load, like you do that effleurage, do that pétrissage, then move back into your effleurage and your pétrissage, and then when you've sort of created a little bit more relaxation and the receptive, go in again. The tender spot. You can use elbow, you could be just as light with an elbow as you can be with the thumb. You don't have to be deep, so it gives you just the right coverage. So that's a nice light elbow, and you just go straight onto that. Okay. Coming up to about 120 is where pec major and minor meet. In this type of position, you could rest the hand on there. So a lot of the times they won't have very much external rotation, or they will be immobile. So resting it either on a bolster, a towel, or here is quite nice. And I start to use my thigh to control their forearm, because if you let go, they just want to come back towards you because it's tight. So I've got the knee in here, and if you're going to use your knee, just explain that my knee is there to support, to look after you, and then you can do this kind of pulsing move with your knee in this position. So everything's free, the hand is being looked after up here, then I can drop my thumb into those pecs. And if you see here the position, the movement that's going on, there will be some transverse frictioning going on. It's not going on from my thumb is staying nice and relaxed. I'm going to apply some overpressure from my palm, okay?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to use my knee in order to do the transverse friction. So that my joints can stay super, super safe and I don't hurt them. And it all comes from my body. And you could go, so there's your tightness there. You could start in and around the clavicle, and then we go down into, so I started there, I go there, and there. And then into that one as well. And that was probably going to be the most painful one. And you can feel how got all of that pec. We work through there. And then again, that's super intense. So we want to come away, go into a little bit of a massage, just mobilize the shoulders, a little shake out, and away we go. So we're aiming to get to 120 to release everything, to put it in stretch. But you might not start at 120, you might not even get to 120. So you have to gradually work your way into it. Probably it's the most painful one. The most painful one would be to pinch. So you're looking with your thumb and your finger, you're looking to find the most dense bit of pectoral muscle. So you feel your way from the clavicle, just unwind that pec and you'll feel little lumps in there. You can go right under the armpit and feel what's going on. And you can do this in lots of different positions. But this is unsupported, so your client needs to do this movement for you. So before you even pinch, you're going to say, I'm going to hold here, and I want you to take your arm into that type of movement, okay? Into that type of movement. Now, most times, they will come down here and do it here. So what I tend to do is I encourage that movement. So if you hold that there, wait for me. I'm going to reinforce my joints here, and then you do that movement for me, and I move my body into the plane that I want them to go, whilst pinning, keep going a little bit lower, might use the forearms, a little bit of overpressure, and then done. Okay, that's tough, yeah? That's like super tough.
Yeah.
And so that will be a soft tissue release again, done, being quite painful way. You could go in and do positional release, so we could go and find that most painful spot and then just take the pressure away. And that's quite a nice way. And it is quite intense. So if it's like too intense for people, then a positional release will work as well. Don't forget your positional release stuff. Right. How are we doing? So
Did
far
you
so
do a
good?
positional release with that like clamp that you had on pin and then shorten it?
You could do. Yeah, you could do. Yeah, that would, but that, I mean, you're going to have to grip. You have to grip for 2 minutes, so it's going to be hard work.
It's 2 minutes.
2 minutes of gripping. It's going to be tough. What I quite like doing. So this is like, I mean, we could just do that. Should we just, I mean, METs to finish. Would be to pull the wrist down towards the shoulder and then apply pressure to the humeral head. The humeral head, just here. There's a bicipital groove which can be quite painful if you get directly on the bicep tendon. So just be aware of that, and if you need to, you can just move more lateral so you're off the bicep head. 10% effort, just push into me. And then relax, let it go, then drop down. The other,
Is that them stretching down at the same time?
I'm pushing him down. I'm pushing him down. So I'm keeping him in that position. I think what I was gonna say is I quite like doing mobilization, activation, and strengthening in this position. So this is like additional one. So this might be getting a bit much.
Can we pause it?
Should we pause it?
Yeah.
Pause it there. It's stuff that you. Yes, let's pause it. Finish there, and then do all of that.
That's already 8 minutes of content and lots of talking around
There's
that.
a lot of content in there. Okay. Let's go. Okay. So we'll do like practice on that, and then I'll go through some alternative or different ways of treating, different concepts, which might be quite interesting. Cool. Okay.
Can you use my towels? Yes,